Which job has, hands down, the worst impact on mental health?
Any job where every day you are constantly being exposed to other people's trauma. Second-hand trauma day in and day out wears on mental health.
Thank you for saying this. Second-hand trauma and the compassion fatigue that goes with it are so real. I worked as an English professor in one of the poorest parts of the US, and I experienced the worst depressive episode of my life. I completely burned out after 2 years. There were only so many essays I could read about sexual abuse, poverty, and incarceration.
I have a friend who works for CPS. You wouldn't believe the number of times she's tried to get a child taken out of a horribly abusive home. Clear physical evidence of sexual abuse etc., but the case falls through because the police won't provide a detective who is good with children, then the child won't repeat accusations for official testimony. It's gotta be up there with first responders.
My brother worked for CPS as a caseworker for almost 8 years, which is about 6 years longer than people typically last. He shared some about his job in conversations with me, but I know he kept a lot of the worst stuff to himself. I'm fully convinced that job played a large part in his path to drugs that eventually took his life.
It's not the worst, see, first responders and, apparently, veterinarians, but being an inner-city public school teacher broke me. Look again. Not as bad as those others, but I've seen and read enough that my decade and has been enough. I've had students murdered. One kid was shot for $12 worth of weed. I also taught the murderer. I've called DCS on many parents because my student came in beaten or starving. I paid for one of my students' lunches because she was pregnant and couldn't afford school lunch. Seen brutal fights that have ended with hospitalization and have also been hospitalized due to breaking up fights. You watch brilliant students discover drugs and overdose. You see kids with bright futures get pregnant and refuse to go to college because they will be supported by the baby's father who skipped town the day she gave birth. And you see kids fall through the cracks in the system to never be seen again. I've also reported 2 fucking pervert teachers. One didn't have enough evidence, but he was still let go while the other currently enjoys prison. My first year, a few of us teachers started a club that would have lock-ins at the school because some of the kids needed a place to get food, get clean, and be away from the danger of home. I've never played more Monopoly in my life or eaten more Papa John's, and I really didn't like doing it, but it was worth it at graduation when one of my students that never missed club thanked me because it was the one night her mom's boyfriend couldn't get her. I still cry about it. I'm crying now. There were amazing positives. I have a few students that are now doctors that were once told that they would never graduate. Getting kids who couldn't read at the beginning of their freshman year to graduate with a full ride to college is a feeling that I can't really compare to anything. But, at the end of the day, the lows are too low. I left the first school that I taught at 6 years ago because we had an incident that definitely wasn't a school shooting that failed only because the kid turned the corner directly into our school officer and, out of fear, the kid killed himself instead of the kids on his list. I should have left then, but I thought it would get better, that I could handle it all. I can't. I'm tired. Update. This got bigger than I thought possible. Thank you all for reaching out. I've been trying to interact and comment on all of the posts. First things first, you do not need to thank me. I'm a singular voice in a sea of Title I teachers, and you can find them also in the comments. We all have stories like this, both incredibly positive and less so. To the people wanting updates, the girl who I helped feed is doing well and has 2 beautiful kids. I haven't heard from the girl in club, and I hope she has found peace. Also, I've been trying to stay vague enough that I couldn't really be ID'd, but I have had one former student DM me and they got my name right. If you're curious if I taught you, DM me and I can tell you if I did or not. Also, my school was in the rural Midwest. This seems to be very important for a few people.
That was a roller coaster of a story. Bloody hell.
Jesus, I'm not going to play the comparison game, but please don't downplay how hard that job was. I can't imagine having to deal with all of that. I really do applaud you though. Teachers like that can really make or break a student during hard times. I grew up in a poor school where teachers like you meant so much to kids that otherwise had bleak lives. Your work means a lot.